and then the saga and what you went through finally being victorious.
That's correct. And then about 2 years, the Supreme Court ruled that Monsanto's patent on a gene is valid. But my wife and I did not have the Supreme Court rule that we did not have to pay Monsanto any money from all the 3 lawsuits, but we had to pay our own legal expense because they said we did not profit by the fact of being contaminated by Monsanto. So in other words, what the court has ruled is that a patent law by a corporation is over and above farmers' rights. Now, we thought it was all over at that time with Monsanto, and that this was by that time 2004. But because we were seed developers, especially in canola, my wife decided, and my wife, that we would never want to go through what we did again, and we decided to not grow canola anymore, and we would start doing research on yellow mustard, table mustard. And we were preparing some land for that, about 50 acres. And in the fall time before the year that we were going to seed it, we noticed that there was again canola growing in it, and there was no canola had been planted in that land. So we knew it was blown in by seeds by farmers hauling to the market, to these crushing factory or facilities and so on. So we did testing, and here we found out that it was Monsanto's canola. And in the end, we took Monsanto to court for contaminating our land on it, and we were successful. Monsanto had to pay for the contamination cleanup. Now, the amount that we received for the cleanup was not that much, but the fact was that Monsanto laid a precedent for future farmers. If they are contaminated by Monsanto, there's an avenue, a new legal method that they can take Monsanto to court and be victorious, because, as I said, a precedent was set. So that was a major, major victory, and you can imagine why Monsanto, even today, still tries to come after us and to do or run us down or ruin our reputation by whatever means they can. But anyway, we feel that it's been a great victory in the end for farmers' rights, that if they lose their ability to be organic, which they surely will happen, they can take Monsanto to court. But the only thing that's wrong with this is that you have to have a lot of money to be able to stand up to a big corporation in court. They have millions of dollars to spend. To give you an example, my court case to stand up for what we believed in cost us $500,000, my wife and I, and we had a lot of help in paying that. Monsanto's bill was $2 million, and at one point in court they had 19 lawyers against us. So you can imagine what they did to try and destroy anyone that stands up to them, and that's why a lot of farmers cannot stand up to them, because they don't have the financial ability and the time to do that, or also
sure,
the mental attitude. You can imagine what that puts on you.
Well, you had the will, and you were a seed developer on your own. You knew it was all a fraud, and you struck back and became an international hero, and people came and aided you. And we don't even need a minority, just a tiny minority, to say no, and that will change history, and you're one of those key people in that. Please continue with other points you'd like to make about your battle with Monsanto, where it went, and then some of the things they've been up to today, and then your take on just the sea change we see happening globally. But now, finally, here in the U.S., their command base, where the whole world seems to be turning against them. I mean, I know why that is. You go to the fanciest restaurants when I've been out in Hollywood or whatever, or in New York, wherever, when I've been invited out by different people that have invited me there, and no one will eat anything that's GMO. No one will eat anything that isn't organic. It's on record that George W. Bush and the Clintons and all of them only eat organic. That's what they have on their aircraft. It's what's in Air Force One. The Chinese elites, the European elites, they won't take the vaccines. The Prime Minister of Australia is in the news saying, my kids don't take vaccines, but you've got to. I mean, you can't make this up. So how can they force something on us when they avoid it like the plague, Percy Smizer?
Okay, what has happened is that what we said would happen back in the late 90s is that more chemical use and so on. And what has happened now, we've developed super weeds that are resistant to this chemical. And now they have what we call out new super chemicals to try and kill this new super weed because of the introduction of GMOs. And there's another thing too. Crop does what has happened. A lot of people don't know that in the harvest time, a lot of times farmers now will spray Roundup or the herbicide Roundup to kill their crop so it ripens more even, especially if you have rolly land. And now you have that residue in the dough or the milk of that seed. So it's not only the chemicals that are sprayed on the land before seeding to kill the weeds. Now you have it to kill the crop, so they can harvest it sooner or ripen sooner if you don't have total flat land. So now you can imagine the residue that we have in our food, and that's why there's such a demand for people to know what's in our food, the labeling, so they don't have to eat this.
Not to mention the water table. I was seeing a number just the other day that 97% of U.S. water is contaminated with Roundup.
Exactly, and it's the soil, the air, the environment that has really taken a beating from the massive increased use of chemicals. Now, the chemical that they use, one of the chemicals they use in the combination of genetic altered chemicals is I'm trying to think the name of Agent Orange. And we all know what Agent Orange did to the people in Vietnam. And that's in some of the chemicals that are being used today in both our countries.
Well, you got the top lobbyist, Patrick Moore, one of the top ones for Monsanto, who ran around for years saying, I'll drink a glass of it. Well, finally, he got called, I guess it was last year, by a reporter in Canada. Okay, go ahead and drink it. And here is the video of what ensued. Pesticide lobbyist refuses to drink what he's out there pushing. In fact, we'll put the headline back on screen. Pesticide lobbyist refuses to drink glyphosate after claiming it's safe to drink. Again, that's up on Infowars.com. That was actually in March of this year. Time's flying. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really, but I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Okay, so you
No, but I know
so it's dangerous, right?
No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot. Interview me about golden rice. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, then it's finished. Then the interview is finished.
That's a good way to solve things.
Yeah. You're a complete jerk.
I mean, these guys are a piece of work, man. All these years, no one would call him on the Kong game. I'll drink this. Go ahead and drink it. Oh, are you kidding? I'm not an idiot. Percy, what do you think of that clip? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you what happened just quickly. In Australia, I was at a meeting, giving a presentation, and after the presentation, one of the people got up to ask questions about the contamination of the chemical, what it would do to human being if they drank it, and the person was from Monsanto. And I said, okay, if I go out and I'll get somebody from the audience, go out and I'll get some insecticide, and I'll spray some in your mouth. Will you let me do that? And he said, no, certainly not. So it's the same thing, you know. They'll say all this, that it's safe, but when they have to maybe try and somebody asks them to drink it or spray an insecticide in your mouth, they won't do it.
Well, that's the thing. An insecticide and herbicide, I'm no rocket scientist. I'm not a chemist, but or an epidemiologist or a toxicologist, but I've had them all on talking about how bad it is. But weed killer that's killing rats that eat it, it doesn't sound like a good idea for me to ingest that. Just, I mean, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. I'm sure they will, but it just, I mean, drink weed killer? I mean, come on. Anthony Gucciardi's here. Do you have any questions for this hero, Percy Smizer?
Well, you know what's interesting, Percy? All three of us on this program have something very interesting in common. We've all been attacked by Monsanto-backed groups, but when I was researching you, and I know about your story, but I was just pulling up some articles today that I was interested in, I noticed that Monsanto had spent a lot of money taking over your search results. And in fact, they actually have this piece now. It must be pretty new. Looks like it's fairly new to me. It's called Myth. Monsanto sues farmers when GMOs or GM seed is accidentally in their fields. And they actually name you. Here's what they say. They say it's a total myth. It says fact, and I sent this to the producers as well. Monsanto has never sued a farmer when trace amounts of our patents and seeds or traits were present in the farmer's field as an accident or as a result.
That sounds like Marco Rubio saying there's no NSA spying, period.
And listen to this. The misperception that Monsanto would sue a farmer was accidentally, if GM seed was accidentally in his field, likely began with Percy Schmeiser, who was brought to court in Canada by Monsanto for illegally saving Roundup Ready canola seed. Mr. Schmeiser claims to this day the presence of Monsanto's technology in his fields was accidental, even though 3 separate court decisions concluded his claims were false. And of course, they say this quote-unquote fact because the systems are so rigged up that you are a bad person and you illegally stole their seeds. So they can actually say it's a myth that they've never sued anyone for that. Yet, of course,
we have a bunch of articles.
Every single news organization admits, yes, it always goes on. This is from Salon. The Supreme Court won't stop Monsanto from suing farmers. A lawsuit would have protected farmers if their fields became inadvertently contaminated.
It's all, they've sued thousands. It's in the news.
Yeah, it's in the news every single day. But then once again,
they were suing Indian farmers.
On Monsanto's article, myth. Monsanto sues farmers.
You know, did you hear? It's a myth. It's a myth the sun came up this morning, Anthony.
It's also a myth that Canada, Australia, and I believe it was Japan 2 days ago issued an international warning over GMO contamination, saying that we cannot stop it, primarily also because if we get contaminated and we say something about it, you know, farmers, independent farmers, Monsanto will sue you. So you can't stop GMO contamination.
Percy, what do you make of this new Monsanto-connected article saying that they've never sued a farmer for trace contamination?
Well, you know, I'd like them to talk to the lawyer that defended me. How many cases he's had where Monsanto has taken people to court.
Now, sir, are you saying Monsanto lies? Because they told everybody Agent Orange didn't hurt humans either. I mean, they don't lie. These are good people. Even though at their own facilities in the U.S. and Canada, on record, the CBC reported, they will not have any non-GMO, their scientists, in the cafeteria. But it's fine, though, right, Percy?
Well, I'll give you an example of what they did here when my case was going on. They went to a number of farmers that offered $20,000 if they would say something negative about me, and it would be not in cash but in chemicals. They would give them a chemical to use worth $20,000. To say, they said it didn't exactly have to be exact, but as long as you say something to try and ruin my reputation or degrade me, or they would take farmers fishing on a fishing trip, buy all the entertainment, the liquid refreshment, and everything else for them to have. And that's what they do. They come into the area, they try and destroy you.
No, they're nice. That's why they dumped dioxin in black neighborhoods and covered it up. They're good people.
That's why they had to pay $90 million to the town of Nitro for killing all of them. They're good people. And headline, Monsanto sues farmers for 16 years straight over GMOs, never loses once. Since 1997, Monsanto has filed 145 lawsuits, on average about 9 lawsuits every year for 16 straight years, according to farmers who have improperly used their patented seeds, like you, Percy. Biotech giant hasn't lost a single case. And by the way, it's way more than 145. This is just on this one issue. This includes when farmers tried to sue Monsanto over cross-pollination of their GMO crops with GMO
Yeah, but
seeds.
Monsanto, they said they didn't ever do that.
No, they say they don't.
No, they said.
No, they say.
Marco Rubio said there's no NSA spying on anybody in America.
Which means there's none.
He said it.
Yeah.
And the military's not training for domestic operations either, Anthony.
Monsanto sues no one. Absolutely no one. But
in fact, they don't even exist.
It doesn't exist.
It's a conspiracy theory that there's even GMO crops.
It's not on all these 20 articles that I have right here.
Percy, sorry, sir, go ahead. In fact, Percy Schmeiser doesn't exist. Sorry, sir, I was imagining things. Go ahead, sorry.
But if you go to the Center of Food Safety in Washington, they documented 100 cases where Monsanto had taken farmers to court, and the average settlement was $150,000 for each
But
farmer.
notice they changed the subject and go, no, we didn't, just to have a debate about that. See that psych warfare tactic? Percy, why do you think they're such bald-faced liars?
Well, I think that there's no morals. The issue is just the bottom line, and everything has to give for that bottom line. There's a lot of, I often say there's a lot of good companies out there, but there's a lot of companies that are not so good, and they'll do anything it doesn't matter how it hurts people with their health, their food issue, the environment, how much they destroy the environment, destroy biodiversity, destroy indigenous seeds, heirloom seeds. That doesn't matter to them, as long as it's the
Oh, stay there. One more segment with Percy Smizer, because you're a seed expert. It's on record. They're buying up all these companies and harassing